Hello, friends. Welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast, where East meets West. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Motley, and we have Natalie Jill here with us today, who has an amazing midlife podcast, and it's called Midlife Conversations. And I have been really checking out your information, Natalie. And first of all, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast
I can't wait to chat. I'm excited. Yeah.
First of all, when we come to the Ancient Health Podcast, we always try to figure out what are some of the most simplistic and basic ways that we can help people on their journey of health, because that's ancient. Like, we don't have all the technology that we have today. But the thing I really appreciate about your page is that you can take some intense information and focus it down to really palpable information.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody out there can take it and use it really, really quickly. First of all, we want to know about you, though. And I read your story, and you have an amazing story, a very powerful story. Can you tell us about your journey, what brought you into making this podcast and your whole page and your whole platform?
Sure. So my journey really started, 17 years ago. And I wasn't doing anything with health or fitness, nutrition, none of that. I mean, it was always an interest of mine. But my original story, which I won't focus too much on because that's not really what created the new podcast, but my original story was I was just like everybody else. I said I was a woman just doing life, and I was working in corporate America. And I sort of lost my way back in 2007. And what had happened was I had my daughter, and it was the first time in my life where I didn't feel I had control of my body anymore. It was the first time in my life where I experienced a lot of weight gain. And it wasn't just from having pregnancy. That was definitely obviously part of it. I made a whole human. But what had happened was things were changing. I was 35 at the time, and I had gained a lot of weight, and I wasn't feeling like myself. So I had postpartum depression, which a lot of women can relate to, but I definitely had that. But it was also back in 2007 when the economy was collapsing. And I found myself not just getting a divorce and dealing with postpartum depression, but I also found myself losing my house and losing my identity, for lack of a better word. Yeah. I was the first time financially stressed. I was stressed in my body. I was stressed in my personal life. I was stressed in all areas. And it was an experience of depression that I had never recognized before. I had not experienced that before. And it was a very dark time in my life. And when that had happened, I really spiraled for about 4 months. And the only thing that really kept me going was that I was a mom, and I had this baby to take care of. It was my daughter. Mm-hmm. And I had really lost my sense of self. And it was in this moment that I had this dialogue with myself that I wonder if there's something else. I wonder if there's another possibility. And it was my first experience with, and I didn't know at the time that would have been personal development, but it was my first experience realizing that what my mind believed or what I thought about could change my whole life. And I recognized this pattern at that time, that if I could just make a new decision and decide I wasn't going to feel this way anymore and decide I was going to focus on a different outcome and a different possibility, that I could maybe take actions from that spot and change my life. And it was just this, it's just this thought that some people think about all the time, but you most of us dismiss it, right? You think, oh, that's stupid. That you can't decide away a depression, or you can't decide away, an injury, or you can't. But it was this first thought of, well, why not? I'm at rock bottom. Like, what would it hurt to try that? Like, what would it hurt to believe that?
Yes.
And, kind of spoiler alert on that is as I did make this decision, and I started, people would call it now acting as if, you start acting as if you're a new identity. But I really started to do that. I started to say, if I was a future version of myself that was different than this, what actions would I have to take? And my answer to that question at the time was, well, I'd have to eat different. I'd have to learn more about food. I'd have to move my body. I'd have to get up despite feeling this way. I'd have to let more positive and good into my world versus focusing on the problem. I'd have to focus on possibility versus problem. And I'd have to focus on opportunity versus obstacle. So my life started to change. And as that was happening, I shared at the time on Facebook. That was the social media platform of choice then.
Yeah, we all use Facebook at some point. Go ahead, yeah.
And it was kind of wild. Like, I was very authentic, just sharing where I was at. Like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm going to focus on. This is what I'm sharing for accountability. And everything started to change for me. Like, my body started to change. My health started to change, my mood. everything. So this is, 15, 17 years ago, but my life started to change and I became this known fitness expert. But it was really because of my own spiral and my own correcting, and that was relatable to women at the time. So at the time, that's how initially my business started.
Wow. So initially you started off and then that started steamrolling and sort of got bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So it was funny because I started, people would say you're one of the top fitness experts or fitness influencers. And I thought that was so funny. I thought I'm just everybody else, but I just happened to figure something out. So I was really in the fitness space for many, many years. But what happened, and I'm 53 at the time of talking to you right now. What
Wow, you
happened
look
was,
great.
as I was approaching 50, things started to change. So
Mhm.
even though I had built this whole brand, showing abs and doing these crazy fitness tricks, and that's what I was doing. I was teaching like extreme fitness and how to get ripped and how to get abs, and that's what I was doing. But as I started to change, approaching 50, I started having new questions. So
Mm.
I started noticing what a lot of your listeners do, especially as they get into midlife and beyond, where you
Mhm.
start getting this midlife thickening, like you're like, what's going on here? Or your sleep starts getting disturbed, or what was typically working for you, what was working for me nutrition wise or workout wise stopped working for me. And I started having these new limiting beliefs that I'll call false assumed truths that about aging, and gosh, aging has to suck, and what's going on with my hormones and my blood sugar. And I started having a lot of questions about that. So when that was happening, I really pulled back and I thought, I don't want to lead people
Mm.
in fitness and getting a six pack anymore. That's not what I want to do. And I thought that because it just didn't feel real to me anymore. I was like,
Yeah.
something else is changing in my body.
Mm.
So I went on my own quest, and typically as I do things, which is really interesting when people ask me how to grow online or how to build their brand, I'm going to say the same thing I'm going to tell you right now. The more you just authentically share what you're walking through and what you're figuring out, the more you're going to attract and relate to people. So
That's
I
amazing.
shared and I pivoted at the time my podcast. I changed it to be called Midlife Conversations. And I changed everything to be that because I was really, really curious. And I wanted to know like what's happening in midlife? Like what is going on here? What's happening with our hormones? What's happening with our mood? Why is my sleep affected? Why am I getting thick in the middle? Like what's going on with my gut health? Like I wanted to understand that. So I
Mhm.
moved into this phase, and I'll call it, sort of being a health detective, that there's not a one way, this is the only way. It's, you truly have to be, as we age, a health detective and say, okay, this is what I used to know to be true, but what else is there? And what am I not looking at? And what am I not
Mm.
believing yet? And what do I need to learn? So as I started diving into that, that is what started to grow my podcast, because other women were really interested in those topics as well. So I really pivoted my whole focus. And even though I do still very much help women with fat loss in midlife, that is my expertise. My approach around it is very different now. It's not just let's eat stricter and let's work out harder. It's not that at all. It's truly, let's go back to these basics with what we need to believe to be true. And let's become a health detective and really look at everything going on in our body to
Mm.
figure out what is that key
Mm.
for us.
I love how you became an investigator, like you
Mm-hmm.
shifted. And I think it's really important with healthcare. And we see it in our patients, our clients today, is that there's no one size fits all. And that's what I appreciate about how you approach it, because that you're saying, hey, there are different ways that you need to look into your health. What I always found interesting was I do a lot of genetic testing at the office, and you're totally on point, because it is amazing how our bodies shift from when we're in our 30s to get into our
Mm-hmm.
40s, and our bodies need different nutrients
Yep.
in different amounts as we get older. And I think it's why they're like, well, why can't I keep this weight off? Why can't I literally be able to eat what I used to and I don't
Right.
get the little pudge around the midsection? And I think experience makes the best practitioner. So
Mm-hmm.
kudos to you. This is amazing. So when you started your podcast, you started seeing people come in. What were some of the main questions that you got? Like, what were
Yeah.
some of the highlights? Because, people listening are going to be like, I've got questions for her. Like, what are some of the main highlights?
Yeah. So let me back up for a minute here. So
Yeah.
when people say, what do you do? I say I kill fat for a living. And when I say fat for a living, it's not just the fat on our bodies. I call that false assumed truths. So a false assumed truth is a
Oh, I like that.
belief that we're holding on to that is not serving us anymore. So let me just give you some examples. And this is very common. I'm sure your listeners can relate to some of these beliefs, like as we age, we gain weight, or as we age, our metabolism slows down, or we lose muscle as we age, or our sleep starts getting disturbed, or our hormones decline and make us miserable, or my genetics or my family, my parents had this or my grandparents had that, therefore I will. Or the more common one is my doctor told me that my lab says this and therefore that means that. So we start having these beliefs about what's going to happen to us as we age, and those beliefs start to manifest on our bodies. So when you believe, like if everyone in your family has type 2 diabetes, you're going to start noticing your blood sugars changing. Like it's this. So it's not that it's not real. It's not that those things aren't happening, but we have these, and I call them false assumed truths, because if anyone else in the world has that same diagnosis or lab or whatever, but they had a different result, then it doesn't mean it's fact. So for instance, like a woman has a hysterectomy. So they have a medical emergency, they have a hysterectomy, and their doctor puts them into surgical menopause really early. So this is per example, 40-year-old woman listening right now, maybe your doctor says, we have to give you a hysterectomy. This is going to be better for you. You will likely go into menopause. You're going to start having hot flashes and you're going to gain 20 pounds. This is a real scenario. So what happens is woman has a hysterectomy. They start having the hot flashes. They gain 20 pounds and they say, well, I was put into early menopause. That's why. Well, I say that's a false assumed truth, not because it's not true. It did happen. You did have that. But has your doctor said, I'm going to put you into surgical menopause. There's going to be many things we can do to help you with your hormones. And you can be a success story here. You can thrive. You can get stronger. You could be healthier. You could be leaner than you've ever been. That's a different set of truth, right? So now you're operating under that. And is there anyone on this planet that that's happened to? Yes. That's the first question. Even if it's one, yes. Okay, great. That should be your belief set, not the other thing. So this is not a woo-woo thing. It's not a I'm told, but it's what we're focusing on, we're going to create, because we're going to take actions to support that. So when you say, what do women ask? Typically what women come to me with is the long story of why they're where they are. And what I'm going to ask them and interrupt is, I understand that's your circumstance. I understand that's your situation. I understand that's the belief set. Got it. That's where we are right now. However, my question is not how did we get here? My question is, what do we want to create? Like, what do we want? What's our new reality? And let's get you there. Because as a coach and as a leader here, I'm going to coach people into the possibility, not from the broken place.
That is amazing, because I love like the assumed truths, the false assumed truths, because when you look back in their history and they're telling you their story, are you able to pick out, okay, this is like the false identification of like a program that you're telling yourself. And that's where you would start, like everybody listening out there is like, you really have to go back and look at those points.
Yes.
Like
I do that all the time. So in my program, so my signature program is called Total Body Thrive for midlife women. And the first 2 weeks of that program, we focus on this. Now, some women automatically love it. They're like, this is amazing. I've never experienced this. Other women, they fight me. They're like, no, just tell me I need to be stricter on my food. No, I need to work out hard. They're mad. They're like, fight. And I say, we're going to get there. I promise you. But until I'm helping you with this foundation, I can't help you there. And the reason is, if someone comes to you, you know this, and they say, nothing will work for me, prove it. Like nothing. You're right away like, great. Exactly. Like, oh, I don't want to battle that. So it's kind of like building your dream house on sand. If you build your dream house on sand, it's going to collapse. It's not going to work. We got to build the foundation first. And the foundation is, do you believe it's possible? Like, are you willing to let go of all of these things you've been holding on to that are not serving you to believe a new possibility? And just like, let me kind of tell you this. So
I love it. This is great.
I'm 53 now. So when I was approaching 50, I started having a lot of things go wrong with my body. Like I mean, a lot. I was getting thick in the middle. My hormones were all over the place. I tore my bicep. I ruptured a disc in my lower back. I had my blood sugar I had as a fitness expert, I had a lot of things going wrong. And I had to look in the mirror at myself and realize that I was also living in a lot of false assumed truths. So I went down this same path that I'm talking about right now and said, okay, what's my new decision? What do I want to focus on? How do I want to operate? Now let me become a health detective. Let me clean up my gut. Let me look at what's going on there. Let me clean up. Let me start looking at what are all these things. And it was not just diet and exercise. It was all these questions. And I went down a path of a lot of different actions, I'm happy to get into. But
Yeah.
for me, I'm now 17 pounds released at 53. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in, like best shape.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it had nothing to do with getting stricter on my diet or working out harder. It had to do with this stuff I'm talking about. So when I walked through that again, I now was able to come back stronger with women and say, wait a minute, I know what you're feeling right now. I got it.
Yeah.
And we're going to do things different this time, because you absolutely can thrive in midlife. You can absolutely be in your best shape, but you have to follow these things first. It's not about just getting stricter on what you've once believed.
Wow. So what would be some of the basic points like that you went through? Like when you got to 50, you started to like
Yeah.
go down this path. What were some of those things that you did?
So the very first thing is I had to go back to what I was basically preaching before and say, what's my new decision? Even though I didn't feel like it, like, what's your new decision? Okay. Yes, you feel like a puffball right now. Yes, you feel like your hormones are all over the place. Yes, you feel like a fraud almost, I'm not living the part of what people expect me to be. So I had to first make a decision that I was going to figure it out and I was going to thrive no matter what. I was going to figure it out. I had to get clear on what I wanted. A lot of women tell you what they don't want. Like, I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to be this. And I had to interrupt that and say, what do I actually want? So those listening, you can do that same thing. What do you want? Like, well, I want to be fit, but why do you want to be fit? Well, I want to be fit so I can keep up with my husband or my kids or my grandkids. Or you have to get clear. What do I want? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And for me, what I wanted was I wanted to figure it out so I could have energy and focus and enjoy my life again and feel confident. And so I could still help other women. And I was clear on that. So I said, okay, if I'm that person, what do I need to know? What do I need to fix? And I knew that I can know all the things about food and workouts, but it's not helping me right now. So I said, okay, what's going on? Like, what's going on? And I look at things as an order of operations. So yes, hormones are important, but like, what's going on with our gut health? Like, our gut is our second brain. And if your gut is not operating in its ideal capacity, there's nothing you can add or do. Like, you can't just take hormone replacement and have that fix everything if we don't have a healthy gut. You can't just eat a variety of foods if you don't have, there's a lot of things we had to look at. So it was cleaning up my gut health and going, okay, let me really look at that. And then even deeper than cleaning up my gut health, what was feeding the gut health problem? So where are toxins coming in? And toxins come in from all different places. For me, it was getting really real. I had breast implants for 33 years. I had 5 sets in 33 years. 33 years.
5
I removed
sets?
them. 5 sets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So dumb. Yeah. I was dumb.
No,
But what I walked
like,
through. Yeah. But I removed them. I learned I had a rupture. I removed them, that they're not in anymore. I removed amalgams in my teeth. I looked at like what could be contributing. So it was going through that. Then it was dialing in hormones and going, okay, let me look at hormones. Now then it's looking at what's going on with everything, like really like head to toe, what's going on with thyroid, really looking at all that. And once that became clear and I started opening up detox pathways and learning about what I'm letting in. And when I say letting in, it's not just your environment, it's what you're listening to, what you're believing, what you're surrounding yourself with. In addition to what are you eating, what are you experiencing, what are you around? That's when things started just to go back to normal. And then that's when your nutrition and your workouts will make sense and do play a role.
So for everybody listening, it would be that you really investigated the things you knew were toxic to your life. Like, this is not like, these are the things that are toxic. So let's remove the things first. Because do you find this though, Natalie, that when clients come in, you're right. I always try to find out what are some of the simple things we can move out of the system instead of like, here's taking a whole bunch of more supplements or herbs.
Agree.
So it's removing the things out of there. And that's not just amalgams and breast implants, but it's like your toxic thoughts too.
Yeah. It's everything. And here's the thing. When I say this, it's interesting because what happens is women then want to skip the initial stuff I said. They say, oh, maybe it's just my breast implants. Oh, wait, maybe it's just my fillings. Wait, maybe it's just my thyroid. it's never a just. It's never just the one thing. And I want people to hear this. It's not you just fix one thing and everything goes back to amazing. That's not the way that it works. And that's the problem when we are a quick fix society and we think it's just hormone replacement, or it's just I'm going to clean up my gut, or it's just I'm going to go get acupuncture one time, whatever. It's not a just. It's not a that. It's a whole. We are a whole person. We're a whole human being. When your car is not running right, we don't just go change the oil. We got to go, what's going on here? Like how old is the car? What's happening? Like, have we done maintenance? Like, there's a lot of things. Like, it's really wild how if anyone listening, if I were to give you a racehorse, like $1 million racehorse, and I said, you have $1 million racehorse here, and it has the ability to really like earn you a lot of money and be your retirement and all this stuff. Like, what are you going to feed that racehorse? How are you going to let it sleep at night? How are you going to take care of it? What are you going to but we won't do that with our own body. Our body is more than $1 million racehorse. Like, so it's not it's not I'm just going to give up fruit, or I'm just going to eat carnivore, or I'm just going to take this one supplement I saw an ad for, or I'm just going to do HRT. It's never a just, it's a whole picture approach. And it's starting with, what am I believing? What do I want for myself? Then it's, yes, obviously we have to clean up our diet. You got to be eating an unprocessed natural food diet. That's like number one. You have to do that. We have to move our body. But after that, it's the detective work. Am I looking at every area and going, am I on point here?
That's amazing, because when you hit the nail on the head when you talk about trying to find out different levels. And like, I'm not moving away from this part, but one thing I really love is that when we talk about how our belief systems do literally change our physiology. And that's the one thing I love about in Eastern medicine, is that there's always this belief and knowledge that if you have a program running, that program is affecting an organ to express itself in a particular way. And what you believe will make the organs act differently. And that will show as you get older. And I think it's really hard for people as we get older. This is what I think is really hard, is that your belief systems are totally different from when you're a kid, your early 20s to now where you're at. You go, no, I do not want to go hang out late at night. I do not want to, so your body would respond differently and say, hey, no, this gland's not going to produce this much hormone because that's not for you. That life's not for you anymore. And then they show, I love it that, you can start seeing it in people's faces and their hands and such. And I think that's when you're talking about being the investigator and seeing the changes, like just in your hormones. And one of the things I get asked, and I'm going to ask you now, it's like, when you were doing the investigating, what was one of the biggest, that belief system, it changes. Yep. What's one of the biggest hormonal shifts you had, like you found on your blood work? Like you got to that point, you're like, I found this was huge.
So I had massive estrogen decline, which is totally normal, like as we age. And you're told by Western medicine doctors, like, well, that's just your age, or it's fine, it's normal. But for me, I was having incredible amount of hot flashes. So for me, my initial thought was, oh, I'll just go do hormone replacement. And look, I am totally not against hormone replacement at all. In fact, I am a fan of hormone replacement for me. I'm a fan of it. However, there's still an order of operations. So to me, what I didn't understand is the gut connection with hormones and how your body will process estrogen if your gut is not healthy. So to me, like a first step was cleaning up my gut and making sure I've got the right balance there, because you're going to feel things and express things different. And if you just jump to hormone replacement without doing that, your body's not going to metabolize it the same. So you could quickly, even though you're low on estrogen, start being estrogen dominant because you're not metabolizing things correctly. So I think one of the biggest shifts for me was changing my belief set around gut health first. And I'll say, like with gut, I always thought, well, I don't have bloating. I don't have digestion problems. I don't have a gut health problem. I didn't understand that that's necessarily, you don't necessarily have those signs. Your gut, if you ever took antibiotics in your life, you probably have something going on in your gut. Like we all get to clean up our gut. Like that's a thing that we're not realizing, like that just taking one round of antibiotics can do that to your gut. So, and I had many of them growing up in the 70s. That was one belief first. Now I personally am a fan of hormone replacement as far as bioidentical for me. And I know everyone's on their own journey and decides that. I'm of the belief that that there's no need to suffer. So yes, estrogen does absolutely decline. We can't stop your estrogen from declining. You can't stop going into menopause. Like eventually you're going to have menopause, whether you're 45 or 55 or 60, like it's going to happen. So you can't stop that. So it's then how do you optimize? And that's your choice how you want to do that. I choose to do small levels of hormone replacement to replenish back up, not to be at 30-year-old levels, but to bring me to the point where I'm not suffering and having, hot flashes all day, that type of thing.
Yeah. Do you like with estrogen or progesterone? I have a lot of patients on that too. Do you like the liquid form? Do you like the topical application, or do you like what kind of forms do you?
I like the transdermal, so you're not ingesting it. So for me, I do a bioidentical estradiol patch. That's what I do. I do a small dose of that. That's a patch that you wear. And then I do a bioidentical progesterone oral that I take that at night, which can change your sleep. After you've looked at other areas affecting your sleep. And then I do, and then for testosterone, I look at that as different levels if people want to do that. But I'm not a fan of like the pellet, which you really can't control. So I would be a fan more of the bioidentical cream or injection at small levels. So you can, there's different trains of thought on hormone replacement. I'm all for it. Some people teach that they want you to get to optimal levels to be like at a level you were at age 30, for example. That's not my preference. My preference is to do a little bit, do enough that I'm not having the symptoms that are making me crazy, but not so much. I'm not trying to be a 30-year-old again. So that's a personal preference and another reason to be a detective around it and to really learn like what is hormone replacement? Is that something I want to experience? And then really understanding the difference between bioidentical and synthetic, which are totally different things.
And when people are considering that, Natalie, like they are saying like synthetic and bioidentical, because I have some patients that come in and ask that. They're like, oh, doc, I don't know. I'm trying to not do this. I'm totally with you, Natalie. I am saying don't suffer. I don't want anybody feeling bad, but I'm saying with bioidentical, what is the difference if they went out to look for something like you say between the synthetic and the bioidentical?
So I don't want to like go too far down a rabbit hole here. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, but with synthetic, basically think like birth control pills. You're taking birth control pills or you're taking like progestins, those are the ones that are linked to cancers and things like that. So when you look at the studies around bioidentical is mimicking your body's natural. And those were flawed studies years ago in the early 2000s where there is that replacing estradiol when you do bioidentical is not what's linked to cancer. What is linked to cancer is using the synthetic estrogens and doing them that way when you're using synthetic ones. So like birth control pills past menopause are not the way to do this. So you might temporarily get out of symptoms, but it's not doing anything. When you do bioidentical, it's mimicking your body's own natural production. So it's helping with that. So I'm a huge fan of it. I think they're pretty life-changing for women suffering. When people say, I want to be natural, like what's your definition of natural? Because it's really not natural to have hot flashes all day long. It's really, and that's not healthy for your body either. So when you look at what's natural, I think that's kind of a funny thing. Like it's natural for you to have hormones. It's natural for your body to do that. So I don't look at it as a badge of honor when someone says, well, I'm not doing them. I'm not doing that. Because that to me, it's not a badge of honor. You're walking through some suffering. And if you don't have it now, you will experience brain fog and bone loss and things later by not looking at that and taking it seriously. So I'm a huge fan of looking at that. There's more studies showing the benefits of having estrogen than there are about adding it. About the decline, the negatives of adding it.
Yeah, that's like with that. When you have patients or clients and people out there listening, like if you did it in nice small sections, you can monitor it. What would be the timeframes you would say, okay, we're going to do this. You need to do this. I recommend it. And how many months? Like we'll check in 2 or 3 months. Like what should be the routine like for a lady? Like in the
so I think that it's definitely a conversation for your doctor because I'm definitely not a doctor, so I don't want to mislead anyone there. So these are just my opinions based on what I've walked through and done. So these are Natalie's opinions. So you all do what you. And then this is something on my podcast, by the way. I've had so many different doctors on talking about hormones and different theories. So like I do that on Midlife Conversations. I've brought in so many different opinions about hormones and how to look at it there. So these are my opinions reasons based on what I've interviewed and what I've learned.
Yeah.
In my preference, we would start in perimenopause.
Okay.
Some level, just to get, there's no such thing as balancing hormones, by the way. When we say balance hormones, and a woman's hormones are never balanced. In fact, in natural, before your perimenopause and menopause, you're not balanced then either, because as your cycle comes, you're up and down. You're not the same level all month long. So it's kind of a funny word when people say I'm going to balance hormones. Like it's because we're naturally up and down. So in hindsight, I think during perimenopause would be a great time to start, to avoid some of the decline. And then honestly, everyone's got their own opinion. I will probably be on them until the day I die. Like I will be on them until I'm 90, because I don't want to have hot flashes and have all of that. So if there's the benefits of a small level of doing estrogen and progesterone, I'm going to stay on them. That's me personally. But it's a personal opinion with you and your doctor. I will tell you, there's a lot of women that come through my programs that they were on HRT feeling amazing, and then their doctor yanked them off it, thinking that they are not supposed to be on it post-menopause, whatever reason, and then they're miserable and they get depressed and they have other issues. So that's a personal preference and decision. I personally think I'll be on them forever.
Wow, it's truly like there are some patients, I think, when they come in, that with the way that their life is going, not in a negative way, they just live a very impactful, fast life. And I'm not saying that's only for people with fast lives, but you're right. There's some individuals say, well, how long, doc, should I be on this? I said, well, I can't give you put you on or off hormone therapy, but I would say some individuals do need to be on it for like their life. I've said,
but it's like thyroid. If you have a low thyroid and you're on T3 or you're on a thyroid, you're not on it part-time. If you need insulin for diabetes, you're not on it part-time. So it's a hormone. It's up to you, but I don't see a reason that it's not a start-stop point.
Yeah, truly. And when people, men and women, go through this, like they will experience like emotional up and downs. And I know like is depression one of the biggest things that people start noticing that would lead you to indicate like you need to get your hormones checked, or what emotions in general?
So I think there's a lot of things, but what happens when we don't feel like ourselves anymore, it can absolutely lead to depression, because when you've known yourself to be one way and all of a sudden you don't feel that you have that control, whether that's your weight gain or your mood or your focus or your energy, there's a lot of reasons that in itself can lead to depression, because you're like, I don't feel like myself. And then there's shame around it. Like, what's wrong with me? And why am I? And I've had depression twice in my life. Once in 2007, after I had my daughter, and I had postpartum depression, like that was real there. And I started to recognize it again in my early 50s when I didn't understand what was going on. And I was on hormone replacement. So that I wouldn't blame that just on hormones then. I think there's a lot that starts to change. And this is why it gets really critical to become that health detective and not just take a quick answer or a quick 5-minute doctor's visit as your answer, and to really go, no, what's actually going on here? And for me, I would say the root of mine was toxins, and then creating a gut health issue, and then having to get that streamlined first. And once that was dialed in, then the hormone replacement, then my nutrition, then all that was able to work well again. And then I can get through my day and feel amazing and do that. It's a lot harder. It's one thing to read, I should do 10,000 steps a day. I should eat healthy. I should avoid alcohol. It's one thing to like read all that. But when you feel like crap, when you feel terrible and you're depressed, like it's a lot harder to follow that than people think. So then there's shame, like what's wrong with me? So anything that's going to get us to feel normal again and to feel like ourselves is going to help us get healthy. Because if you feel capable and empowered and strong and you're not depressed, like you're going to take better lifestyle care of yourself.
Oh, it's true. I've always seen with patients, and myself included, whenever I feel down, my mom has hyperthyroid. My dad has had low level. You could tell by his levels. And I've had with my indicators and my test, like my thyroid can get a little jostled. So I have to make sure it takes detox. And you're correct, because I had a lot of strep throat issues when I was a kid, and I had a lot of viral. And I want to talk on that for just a second, because you're right. Like with the gut biome, I find that with individuals, when they are full of microbes that should not be there,
Yeah.
it is hard for them to absorb even their nutrients. So they
That's
could
right.
take their vitamins and their minerals, they could do the hormone replacement. I'm like, but your body's is in a fight or flight kind of situation because you're fighting infections. What were like with the gut health? Is there any tests that you recommended to go get their gut health? Because that's a very big issue is microbes
Yeah.
and stuff that you
So
shift.
I'm hesitant to say a test name, and I'll tell you why. I would say in general, you need to do a stool test because that's
Yeah.
how we can find out what's going on. It's a little bit more than just a test name. It's who's interpreting the test. So, because you could take the same gut biome test, and depending on who's looking at it, they're going to say
Mm-hmm.
different things or see different things. And just
Mm-hmm.
because, for example, let's just say someone has parasites, which more people have parasites than are aware of. People
Yeah.
roll their eyes at that, but like 50% of people have some type of parasite in them.
Oh, they have
And
parasites.
yeah, yeah. And it doesn't always show up on your test. There's so many different strands and types. And so you kind of need someone that knows really how to interpret that. It would be a stool test that you would want to do for overall gut health. But to me, there's a lot of different things that we're testing, especially in midlife. We want to look at our guts. You want to look at stool tests. I'm a huge fan of just regular serum tests. You're going to do blood tests. And then for hormones, different doctors will tell you different things, but some people are as simple as they're going to do muscle testing. Some people are going to say we need to do urine testing, more like a Dutch test. Some people want to do saliva testing. I don't know that I have like a preference or this is the way to do it. That's something definitely to work with your doctor on. But it's testing, but it's also intuitively listening to yourself and knowing, deep down what's causing things. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Like, I did not want to believe that my breast implants, for example, could be creating havoc in my life. I wanted to believe they're safe. They're, it's just my age. It's what's that. But I think intuitively deep down, I knew it's a foreign thing in my body that my body probably doesn't want it. So like you all listening, you might be in denial around some things, but I really believe we're smarter than that. And I think all of us deep down probably know what is going on. Like all of us know deep down if we're addicted to our phone. All of us know deep down if we're drinking too much alcohol. All of us know deep down if we're not, if we're self-soothing with something we shouldn't be. We know deep down if we've got toxins that we're not eliminating. We know deep down about the Diet Coke habit. So I don't want to oversimplify, but I think some of us are looking for this quick test to tell us something. And I think if we really go within, we know deep down what might be creating some health issues for us.
That's a great point. And you're right. It is coming to terms. I remember I had Lyme disease really badly. And, you get to a point where you could be a bit afraid to go find out what's going on because of the information you find out. But Natalie, do you, as I get older, I look at life and I go, I could either shy away from something, but I could lean into it. And I want to lean into my health. Like I want to lean into it. Like I would want to know if like my thyroid's off or something. I'm like, that gives me an explanation why this is happening. And like when people say knowledge is power, like it's a strength, I'm like, that is really, a big factor in our lives. So you found these out, and people out there, hopefully they're encouraged, like go get some testing done, be an investigator, find out. You went out and investigated, you found out. Now you're cleaning things out, found that the breast implants, amalgams, when you got rid of this, then you started to notice like changes. What was the first changes that you started to notice? Because some people would be like, they'll go, I don't know, Natalie, I don't know if I really feel anything, but what are some of the things they should know?
Yeah. Okay.
Change?
So I'll rewind my story a little bit. So the first when I was approaching 50 and I started getting injured and I started getting thicker in the middle, my first thought was I felt incongruent. I thought, here I'm teaching fitness and fat loss, and I don't know what's going on with my own body. So that was my first thought. Like I felt incongruent. So every single one of you listening, that I believe is the first sign. You start feeling incongruent, whether that's with your career or with what you believed to know that you knew for yourself. So like you believed you were healthy and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I don't feel congruent. So number one sign is you start feeling incongruent. Okay. Number two is what most of us do. Oh, I'm just going to get stricter on my diet. I'm going to work out harder. Okay. So that's how we all start approaching things. Like I'm going to get stricter on my diet. I'm going to work out harder. And then what happens when we don't have the energy to do that, or it's not working, then we go into self beat up because like, what's wrong with me? Why does this not work for me? And that's when you start hearing nothing works for me. I've tried everything. No, what happened is what used to work for you is no longer working for you. And instead of getting uncomfortable and going, what is the bigger, deeper reason, we're in self beat up now. Okay. So that's kind of like step 2. So phase 1 is you feel incongruent. Step 2 is you go into self beat up because you're trying and it's not working anymore. Okay. So next level is now we got to be a student again. So next level is I've got to be a student. So for me, what my first indication was my blood sugar started being really dysregulated. Now I am a nutrition expert. I have 2 best-selling books on nutrition. And my blood sugar was not working. And I'm like, what? I would have berries and my blood sugar would shoot up over 200. Like that's not normal. So I knew something was wrong. So then still ego, not willing to be a student again. I'm like, oh, I'll go strict keto. I'll watch every carb. I will make sure. And it wasn't working. So this is when I had to start being a detective and ask for help. So one of my friends, my friend Laura, happens to be a gut health expert. She mentioned to me, Natalie, parasites, gut health could be a problem with your blood sugar. And I thought she was crazy. I'm like, what is she talking about? She's crazy. But I had to get past that and go, well, what I'm doing is not working. Let me look. So then for me, it was, let me look at what's going on with my gut health. Let me, because any doctor I went to was saying, oh, it's just your age, it's perimenopause. It's just, this is what happens. But I said, okay, let me look at this. So I listened to her. I did a gut test. I started a protocol to work on my gut health. And right away, my blood sugar started to regulate and I released like 5 pounds. That was the first indicator. But I wasn't done there.
Wow.
And she said,
Wow.
Natalie, something's feeding your bad gut. Like you don't just get bad gut health. It's not just you did antibiotics, had bad gut and we fixed it. Like something's feeding it. So that's when I started looking at, okay, that's the next level, toxins. Like what else is happening? Like now look, we cannot avoid all toxins. And I personally don't avoid all, like I color my hair and I still will. Like I'm not perfect with the toxins and I don't expect anyone to be, but we start going, where should we really reduce toxic load? Now, if you're listening, you're 20 or 30, your body might be doing great with toxins. Like you have a liver, like everything is working fine. What happens as we get older, we get the toxic load. So now things are compounding and over time, the more the stuff you're exposed to toxin wise, it starts to compound and we're not effectively releasing things. So then I started looking at that and that wasn't just cleaning up my products. It was like, I got to get real. I still had amalgams in my mouth. I still had breast implants. Like what do I need to be looking at? So it was releasing that stuff. Then after that, it was, okay, now let's look at hormones. Let's look at thyroid. Let's start optimizing things. So it was going through the process and everyone's process might be a little bit different, but I will tell you now, I am back to the weight and the leanness and the energy that I was before any of that. And it wasn't one thing. It was literally being a detective and going through the process there.
That is amazing. It's an amazing story because it gives people hope because you and I both had these type of clients and patients that when they can't drop weight, they'll ask like, I can't get rid of these few pounds. And some people are like, no, it's 17 pounds. This is 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And
which is me.
And I'm not patting myself on the back with working with them, but I work with a lot of yeast and mold and parasites.
Yeah.
And you have to, like, when you become an investigator, there's also that part of your psyche that has fortitude that when you do release some of those infections, that you're not necessarily want to go to a Herx detox reaction.
Right.
I try to work very softly with patients, like, no, let's get and they want it done quickly. I'm like, you got to be careful if you go that quick because you'll feel like horrible.
You will get sick.
You'll get sick. And like you said, I think that one of the best things that one of my mentors was telling me a long time ago, he told me, he said, whenever you start to modify your gut health and clean it up with parasites, he goes, remember, some parasites have been known to have like plastics and metals within them. Like they actually consume it and the body will keep them around sometimes.
That's right. It cleans up other problems.
Problems. Like it's a symbiotic relationship. Then the virus can get into them and then you pop them open and then they can come out into your bloodstream and then you start getting sick. And people are like, you mean they're that smart? I'm like, yes, they're that smart. And your body's that innately intelligent to like, hey, I got to have help.
And that's why I believe why I had them is I had a ruptured implant. I didn't know. I had the amalgam. I had a lot of things happening. So those were cleaning that up. So they live within your body to clean that up. So when those came out, that's why Laura was smart and said, okay, you clean them out, but what's feeding them? Because they'll keep coming back. Like your body will do that. So, it's interesting because look, as a marketer, like I guess technically I would be a marketer because I'm online, I have products online. As a marketer, it would be smart for me to say, y'all, it's just one thing. It's just one thing. Just buy this test, buy this. But I can't ethically say that because I don't believe that. I believe we are a lot grander than that. And there's a lot of components to us. And do I believe that mindset, nutrition, and workout could help 80% of people? Absolutely. 80% of us, you do those things, you clean up your diet, you're gold. I'm going to help you release weight easily. There's another 20% of us, we got to go deeper. We got to go deeper. And you don't settle. That's the key. You have to decide you're not settling for, it's just not possible for me. If you, as soon as you say it's just not possible for me, you've given up and you will stay stuck there.
That is a great point, because you and I have seen people done 20%, and our grace goes out to these individuals, because the 80% that can do the workouts and do these things, we all have to realize is that those individuals may have a genetic tree that's a little bit stronger in certain areas than ours. They have an environment they grew up that's not as toxic as ours. So that's where that self-shame and self-beat-up comes into. And I'm like, you're the 20%. I am. I have a double homozygous recessive on a lot of my MTHFR genes. And I was always wondering, like, how can my brother eat horrible chicken wings and all this stuff up until towards his 50s and not hardly get sick? And I was like, and I have to, like, you know, when I had Lyme and all this stuff, I had to change what I ate, stop drinking coffee for like 2 or 3 years, doing all these things. I was like, because I got my genes read. And it was a process. But you and I can say this, thankfully, and not in arrogance, say we don't hardly get sick. But when we do get sick, we're so in touch, like you just said, it was beautiful. You're so in touch with yourself. You'll go, oh, my throat is feeling this way. And then you'll go, I wonder if it was because I used to get sick when I was a kid all those years and I had something in my throat. Like, that's where the investigation comes in. I love that too. Like, whenever you know your body.
It's so wild too, because most of us in this space, and I call it the age optimization space. So people can call it biohacking or whatever, age optimization. Most of us in this space have a big story. Like you do too. Like because we had to figure it out, and that's why we help others. Now, what's really wild is when people look at, like, if someone goes to my Instagram and they see that I'm fit, or they see that I've got abs or whatever it is, their instant thought is it must be your genetics. And what I want to share is, if you saw my genetics, it's like my DNA report is wild. like I should be so unhealthy based on my DNA. I have like hugely dysfunctional mitochondria, like it's just crazy on my DNA. Then you look at, like, my dad died at age 49 of a heart attack. My mom has type 2 diabetes. My sister's type 1 diabetic, cancer in my family. Like, so my genetics suck. There's nothing good in my genetics. So and obesity, all of it. So when people say genetics, I'm like, okay, I should show you my genetics. So are there some people that their genetics play a role? Abso-freaking-lutely. Like that is key. But I'll tell you, more often than not, people that you see that are healthy and fit, it's because they had to figure it out, because they worked their butts off. And I don't just mean working their butts off at a workout and their nutrition. That's not what I'm talking about. It's being a detective. They had to learn. The reason so many people in this space, in this health space, are really good at what they do is they had to walk through it themselves. Now, where I can tell the frauds or the not, the people that are highly opinionated and say that it's one thing. So when I see somebody that's super fit, like shaming people for doing a GLP, for example, or shaming people for not working out harder or not eating better, those are the people that I'm like, you were the genetic anomaly and you don't get it. You think it's one thing, and that's an arrogant thing. So how do you know who to work with, who to trust? It's not those people, because those people, if they think it's literally one thing, they have the arrogance problem. That's their gene. So
you hit the nail on the head. There is times when, do you find this, that like when you're working with individuals, you had to investigate so much in your life? And this is encouraging to everybody out there that's listening. It is tough and it's trials, but you're right. When somebody just says, well, it's only this, and then they'll bring something to the opposite. Well, they said, if I took this, it would solve everything. And I said, I understand what they're maybe coming from, but you're totally right. It's like, it can't be just one thing. And one thing is, you and I had to become, when we help people, I say jack of all trades, it's because we've had to experience some things in our lives. It's like, man, I had huge amounts of mercury, and I was like, heavens. By the first year, I was like, am I going to have to keep doing this? But then internally, it was like, no, like you just said, I made a choice. I'm going to go through it. I'm already gotten this far, you know?
Right.
And then I think like you just said, when individuals are out there, remember, stay strong, like, and don't give up. You'll get there. And that's one thing that I love about your Instagram page. It's like, you're always showing that, we're going to keep moving forward. And so we did talk about foods. We talked about hormones, what you are doing. And I know time is precious, so I'm always making sure we're on good on time. But what do you now see as your platform moving towards? I know you're encouraging, you're saying it's midlife. Where do you see it expanding to? It's like, is it just around, not just, I'm saying, is it around the food, metabolic hormones, or is there other things you can listen to?
So everything that I teach is about age optimization. I want people to age well. Now, I am not, it's funny. My second book is called Aging in Reverse, and I hate that title. I wish I never called it Aging in Reverse, because I don't believe in aging in reverse. I believe in optimizing our aging. We're lucky if we get to age, right? But aging and declining as we age doesn't have to be as scary as people are afraid of. Like, we can age well. Like, I'm 53 and I feel like I'm just getting started. I have many friends in their 50s, 60s and beyond aging really well. And that's what I want. I want to be here as long as I can age well and be productive and feel focused and energetic and move my body. That's what I want. So I teach, how do we do that? Now, fat loss is a huge component of that. Like, we cannot be metabolically healthy if we are overweight. We just cannot be. So I want to be really clear. So when people, I'm all for the self-love and the body positivity in some ways, but I also want you to be healthy so you can thrive and not have a cognitive decline and not have your body break down. So I'm going to teach all things related to that. So how do we age optimally? So yeah, I do that on my podcast, is where I get very curious. I do some solo episodes, but honestly, it's mostly me getting curious and learning about hormones and learning about gadgets and just learning, like, how can we best optimize our health? On my Instagram and social media, which you can find on Natalie Jill Fit, I will always share what I'm walking through, what I'm learning, and help. I like to help women feel empowered, like how that you can feel empowered and take back control and grow and be amazing. I am not about making people feel bad about their choices. I think there's too much of that. I mean, I am open-minded to any and all things that help us age well.
Truly. And I know there's so much I want to talk to you. I mean, like, I could keep going, but like, one thing though, I know I want everybody out there to follow you and to go into your podcast and to listen, because it is great information. You have really good conversations. I'm going to say, like, and you're very good at like how you ask questions. And I'm so grateful when I hear that, because it helps inspire me to be a person, hopefully, to ask good questions. And I know one of my friends' patients is going to ask me, like, to ask you, because you have great hair. And no joke, like, not trying to be weird, just like, like, when you're getting to a phase in life, like, was it healing your thyroid that helped you have great hair, or what was that? Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to be really, really real with y'all here. My personality is very real, but some things on me are not so real. So yes, I have good hair, but I also have hair extensions. So I don't want to lie there. I do have some hair extensions in my head. I do color my hair. So I want to be really clear there. I do not personally have the hair thinning that a lot of women have in midlife. And I believe it's because I've really worked on optimizing hormones and optimizing my health. But I do, for thickness, I have hair extensions and I do color my hair. Otherwise I would be gray. So I want to be really real there. I am not against tweaks, and I'm a girly girl. So I love that stuff. So I think it's a balance, and we all choose. So you choose what it is, how you want to age, and what is good for you, what's not good for you. I am not anti anything. So if someone's like, they want Botox and all, like, I am not, I want you to age well. So it's picking what's important to you and where you willing to let go of some of that. So it's a balance, and I will never shame or judge somebody either way. And I think we all get to age the way we want to. So as far as hair, I'm going to say that's my truth there.
Oh, hey, no joke. Like, I think it's great, because like, people love real and authentic. Like, people would say, Motley, do you like, I have some friends like, don't ever drink coffee. Don't ever. I was like, hey, I've had gene reports that say that I have certain genes that may not process caffeine, but I take my minerals and vitamins to allow me to drink coffee. So I'm going to enjoy that. Like, I want to age well. Like, so I'm thankful. And the realistic part is, like, that's what people love you about. It's like, I love how you take your information, and everybody out there listening is like, you're even in the gym and showing individuals doing exercises that are not going to injure themselves. Like, if they're a certain age, it's like, these are very productive exercises at this age of life. And I'm just truly grateful for it. And that's when they told me you're going to be on the podcast. Like, let's go. Let's ask some good questions. And one of the things I really want to add, these are fun questions. Yeah. But these are not like crazy questions.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions. So I want everybody to check her out. And then what are some things that you like to do that nobody would kind of know about you? Like, is there a hobby or something that, nothing
Okay, let's
crazy. I'm
see.
not trying to get like in your
Yeah.
deep dark secrets or nothing, but
Let's
yeah.
see. Okay, for the first part is what nobody would know about me. I am an open book. Like I overshare. I share. That's my ADHD. I overshare everything. So there's nothing that I hide or don't talk about. So I feel like if someone follows me on social media, they pretty much know my whole life. But I'll just tell you a couple interesting things. I would say I'm a social introvert. So meaning people think I'm very extroverted because they see me online. I love real conversations. I hate small talk and I don't like big crowds. So if I'm speaking to a big crowd, that's great. Fine. If I'm just mingling in a big crowd, I get very uncomfortable. I don't love that. I'm not a small talk person. Nothing drives me more bonkers than you're checking out at the grocery store and they're like, "Do you have any plans for the weekend?" I'm thinking, why do they care what I'm doing for the weekend? I know they're just being friendly, but so I'm not good with small talk. I don't love, like, you get your nails done and they're like, "Are you working today?" I'm like, why are they asking me that? So I don't like small talk. I would say that I'm weird like that. I also love to go to bed early. If I'm at home and it's 8:00, I'm excited to go to sleep. So that's, and I tell my husband, I think I love to sleep because my brain is always going, 100 miles an hour. That's my time that there's nothing. It just shuts down. So I actually love to sleep. As far as hobbies and everything, I love anything active. I love exploring. I love traveling. I love experiencing new things. I love doing all that. And I probably share it all on social media as I do it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. What's your favorite music?
My favorite music is my daughter's. Penelope
wow.
Grace. She's on Spotify.
Penelope Grace.
My daughter's a music artist, so I'm obsessed with her. That's my
Aww.
biggest passion. So I would say my favorite music is her. Other than that,
love
I would probably say I'd go back to 90s music, which is really funny because she's inspired by 90s music. So that's kind of her too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Like if people say like, well, like, man, a lot of 90s music in my life.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you had to be on an island and for a few months to just rest, not like you're in a shipwreck, that's just totally morbid.
Gosh.
But I'm saying, what would you like a book you would like to read that you think is a good book that everybody should read?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. Okay. If I was on an island with nothing to do and I was
Bored out of your mind. Yeah.
Bored out of my, I can't say that there's one book. I guess in that case, I would have to probably say the Bible, not because I love reading the Bible, but because I would want answers. Like, why am I here? Why am I stuck here? What am I going to do? So I would say that would need to be my assignment then.
Okay. And one more last question. I know it's a lot, but I love these questions. Like if you said somebody to start in their midlife, and this is the one thing I want to ask, like what would be like maybe just common like supplements that you like though? Like what would you think that people would say? Like a little small list, nothing crazy.
Okay. Well, so this is going to be a hard one, but I will say if you go to, I don't know if I can say a link, but ageoptimizer.com, I update all the time with whatever I'm currently using, taking, whatever, just because I change this all the time. So it's just, if you go to ageoptimizer.com, I always have an updated list. And the reason I say that is I get so hesitant on the supplement question. Here's why. I love supplements and I love minerals and I love things like that. The reason I'm hesitant is I'm always changing and tweaking based on what I'm learning and what I'm navigating. So currently there is one supplement. They're not paying me to say this. Like I absolutely love them, even though they have sponsored my podcast, is Beam Minerals. Like I can actually feel their minerals. So that is a supplement I think I'll be on for the rest of my life. Like I absolutely love that. So that would be one of them. Let's see. Another thing that I would say, I'm just trying to think what I'm currently, it's really, when it comes to things like mitochondrial health, I've always felt the importance of it. I'm not going to say it's just one magic pill supplement, but I think it's important to be looking at, are we taking like CoQ10 and polyphenols, like as a basic level? I could recommend like, this is the supplement, the next level, but I would say just at a basic, are we taking those like antioxidants? Are we doing those types of things? And then let's see. And then I'm going to say magnesium. I think magnesium is a key thing for all of us, especially at night.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm with you. I go to my friend down in Dallas, and she does all my like kinesiology muscle testing. And people say, what are you taking? I'm like, there are a few basic things that I love. Realistically, it's like sometimes I need a lot more CoQ10 and the next time I don't need as much. And then sometimes I need more fish oil. And sometimes my gallbladder says don't take much because I'm trying to heal.
That's exactly right.
We're both like in that boat where everybody is in the same boat. So, when they have like powders or drinks, when they say everything's in this one thing and I can drink it every day and it'll take care of everything. I'm like, it could, but be careful, You know
what I did forget? I forgot to say enzymes, digestive enzymes. And I'll tell you why I like digestive enzymes. We produce less in our stomach as we age. So, after 35, you're going to produce less enzymes. And I am a big believer in getting enough protein to maintain muscle and not lose. So I want you to digest and process your protein. So I would think digestive enzymes are another thing I will probably always take.
Oh, this has been such a good combo. Truly, I'm not kidding. Like everybody out there, and we'll put it in the show notes too. We can put everything, that you want us to put in the show notes and the captions, and everybody can follow. And I love the fact that you put your supplement regimen as it changes.
I do, because that's like the big question. But I just want to give a warning on that again. I know I said it a few times, but it's not one pill. So when someone's like, I just give me your supplement list, like there's so much more to that. But I do keep that list because it's like my biggest question. And I am constantly experiencing and experimenting and changing and learning and replacing. So I update it every 90 days.
Oh, I'm with you. I love Bean Minerals. I talked to Caroline. I know you've talked to her.
I love them.
She's so smart about it. And I take it every morning. I put an electrolyte shot in my regular, like right after my coffee, I chug it down and I'm like, I know it feeds my body. I can feel it. Like my brain's more clear. So everybody out there, shout out to Bean Minerals. I mean, they're such
I use their top. I don't know if you use their topical too. Like I'll spray their topical every morning, night. Like when I first started talking with them and they were telling me, as always, like if you have an ad sponsor, like I only put sponsors on my podcast if I actually use a product first and foremost. But I always ask them like, what would you love me to say? And then I'll put it in my own words. And when I was reading their initial copy, I was like, what? But yeah, it's accurate. Like I spray it and I feel it. So I really do love their company.
That's exactly same here, Natalie. I literally I use what I put out there. And so like I've been using like Timeline and using their mitochondrial replenisher. And I'm like, I mean, I believe it. I believe what urolithin does, but I would be like, my muscles feel thicker and my hips feel good and stable. And I was like, man, I'm using that all the time. Like,
okay. So I have been using it, but not as long as you probably. So that'll be interesting to see if I feel
you watch it after a while. Like what I have found is it's not like weight. I just felt like my muscles started to feel firmer and I was like,
oh, that's awesome.
And I wasn't,
without changing like workouts or anything.
Without changing it. I was like, literally, I want to be like this. I was like, I'm a thin dude. Like I'm not like big. And I was like, oh my word. Okay. So shout out to Timeline. Anyway. Okay. So this has been such a great experience. And I'm excited. Hopefully in the future we can jump on another podcast again. You get a nice bubbly energy, and I'm so thankful for you. So everybody out there, please visit her Instagram page, her website. And if you're in the midlife like I am, like we gotta stay healthy. So Natalie, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Guys, from all of us here at the Ancient Health Podcast, thank you so much for joining us today. If you like this kind of information, give us a comment and, like and subscribe. And if you know anybody that needs Natalie's info, please forward this over to her or to them and then tell them to go listen to her podcast. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you.